Republican Senator Lindsey Graham has stepped into the political crossfire over abortion, proposing a ban after 15 weeks of pregnancy.
I think we should have a law at the federal level that would say after 15 weeks, no abortion on demand, except in cases of rape, incest, to save the life of the mother. And that should be where America's at.
Well, that upset his own party leaders who want people to focus on inflation, not abortion, because abortion is the issue that is rallying Democrats to vote in record numbers.
With regard to his bill, you'll have to ask him about it. Most of the members of my conference prefer that this be dealt with at the state level.
Joining me now is Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts. So do you see abortion as the defining issue for this election?
Or I do.
Or is it inflation, though?
This is the difference, though, between Democrats and Republicans. And that is that Republicans, if they have the power, are going to put a nationwide abortion ban in place. Keep in mind, Mike Pence was saying, yay, keep this going. And that's just become clear with this latest bill that's been introduced. Democrats, if we've got the votes, are going to make Roe versus Wade the law of the land, which is what the majority of Americans want. And by the way, what all those Supreme Court justices who, when they came in for their hearings, when they were nominees and held up their hand and swore that Roe versus Wade was settled law and there was no reason to disturb settled law, that's what they said at the time, or certainly tried to imply to the American people, was going to continue to be the law. So that's a huge division, and it's going to drive a lot of votes in November, as it rightly should.
So how do Democrats get Republicans off of the inflation issue when the numbers that came out yesterday are not good? Markets reacted, but it's very clear the Fed is going to have to tighten again, and a big tightening again. It'll be the third one in a row, likely, 75 basis points, and that inflation is still not licked. Core inflation, even though gas prices are down, food prices are up, and core inflation is up, which is what is so disturbing.
I think the question you have to ask is, do Democrats or Republicans actually have a plan to deal with inflation? Look at the principal causes of inflation right now. We've got terrible kinks still in the supply chain. We've got COVID still shutting down parts of the economies around the world. We've got a war in Ukraine that had driven up the price of energy, and we've got price gouging. Democrats are on the attack on all four of these. What are Republicans doing? Republicans have no plan at all. I literally have not heard a plan from a single Republican to try to deal with inflation.
But the Inflation Reduction Act, so named, doesn't really reduce inflation.
Well,
it brings the deficit down less than one might have hoped because of Manchin and Sinema taking things out on the tax piece of it.
It absolutely brings the deficit down. And remember, if you think that the problem that causes inflation is too much money floating around the economy, then it absolutely attacks that directly. But what it does that I think we have to remember about inflation, it attacks costs directly where families live. So the Inflation Reduction Act is partly about bringing down utility costs, and it's partly about bringing down health care costs.
Long term, and both of those doesn't kick in until 25 or so.
Long term is where I think everybody in America would like to see those prices come down. This is literally the first time that Big Pharma has lost in a battle to be able to keep raising prices forever and ever. And Democrats have a real plan to bring down prices, while Republicans just stand by and scream.
Now, in neighboring New Hampshire, just overnight, you've seen this former General Bolduc, winning. He is, of the two possible choices, the election denier, the most conservative, the most radical. And in state after state, the Democratic Party and Democratic-supported PAC groups, PACs, are supporting the most radical, the election deniers. How do you feel about that? Because maybe it's good strategy in terms of Maggie Hassan holding her seat, but what if they're elected?
Look, I think this is just extraordinarily dangerous. I am so deeply disturbed that there are still so many MAGA Republicans who, instead of talking about what's happening on the abortion front as women have lost their rights, how we bring down prices for families. They want to still relitigate 2020 and impose a nationwide abortion ban.
So why are Democrats supporting and pouring money into their campaigns?
Look, I believe that these folks are very, very dangerous, and we have got to make it clear by November that this choice between Democrats and Republicans really is the choice between, do you believe in an America where healthcare decisions are between a woman and her doctor, or do you believe that Republicans in Washington should be making that decision? Do you believe in an America where we actually take on big pharma and beat them, where we actually bring down energy prices, where we actually try to make this country work better for working families?
And one thing that you're trying to do for working families is bipartisan.
Yes.
Just take a look at the front page of the print edition of the New York Times today. We're going to put a graphic up to show it to you, because look at all of these members of Congress who actually are trading stocks that involve companies on which, you know, they're on committees that have oversight of these companies. And it is a potential conflict of interest, if not a real conflict of interest. It's very hard to dig down into whether there are real conflicts here without a real investigation of each one of these. But look at the numbers. Look at this graphic again of how many people. You've got a bipartisan bill in the Senate.
Yes.
And so what's the future of that bill?
So,
that would ban ownership or trading, right?
Let's start with the good news. It is the toughest bill that has been proposed in Congress, and it says no buying, no selling, no owning stocks, period, individual stocks for members or members' spouses. It's a really easy bill. And here's the good news. It is bipartisan. My Senate partner in this, Senator Daines, we have other Republicans who've signed on. We've got Democrats. We're trying to build a big enough coalition to move this forward. There is just no reason to permit this behavior. It is time for Congress to step up, vote on the Stock Act, and stop this business.
Before I let you go, just got to ask you about Donald Trump and Mar-a-Lago and whether you see, whether classified or unclassified, is there any excuse for taking documents in these numbers, including some of the most secret documents that the U.S. has? And now there's a court battle going on over this, but this is delaying the investigation and delaying the damage assessment.
That's right. There is absolutely no reason, no excuse for taking these documents, but more to the point, he is putting the security of the United States at risk, and he must be stopped. We need to keep these documents secure. Our government needs to be able to deal with them. But this is Donald Trump doing what Donald Trump always does. He puts Donald Trump first. And everyone else, literally, including people who are out in the field whose lives could be at risk, all are subsidiary to Donald Trump. He cares only about himself. What's important is that we have a Department of Justice that, without fear and without favor, is going forward in its investigation. We need the courts to abide by the laws on this. And we need to remind everybody in America, including former presidents, no one is above the law.
Spoken like a former law professor. Senator Elizabeth Warren, thank you very much. It's very good to see you.